are in Southern California examining a Quercus agrifolia, California live oak, a massive old heritage tree. We could even call this a double heritage tree because it's so large and old and dramatic. But it has a few problems. One of our very large lateral limbs comes out to the front, right out to the street, and it's slowly dipping down into the strike zone. We have several pretty significant strikes up on the main stem there where bark has been knocked off, where limbs have been torn out, and so we want to prevent that damage from occurring again and again. If this limb were to be further damaged and sent into decline, it could threaten the whole tree. So we've installed a brace to prevent this lateral limb from descending any lower. We've manufactured a jack screw brace utilizing 4-inch by 4-inch, 1/4-inch wall steel box tubing. We've installed a jack screw at the very top. There's a base plate at the bottom to prevent that tubing from being pushed into the ground. So we've got a firm, strong support. We have minimized injury to the tree by going to an existing wound site and applying our jack screw right there. So we haven't made an additional wound to the tree. We haven't drilled through new, fresh, healthy bark. We've gone to the center of this wound on the lower underside of the limb, and we're applying our lift force right there. So minimum damage to the tree and maximum support for the tree. We're going to come back and paint this box tubing to prevent corrosion. This is going to be really a permanent installation. If we can stabilize this large lateral limb at the street, we can preserve this tree perhaps indefinitely. Here's another brace that went in about 15 years ago. This long lateral limb has slowly come down and was beginning to block the driveway where the car could not get in and out of the driveway. So I installed this brace. Now this is the old way, this is the way we used to do it, with the so-called crutch or cradle method. You can see this U-shaped form goes under the limb. It's padded with neoprene rubber to prevent damage to the bark. And we have created a firm support for this lateral limb so that it cannot sink any lower. We don't want this limb descending down any lower and restricting access of the driveway. The new method that we use now, the single pick point jack screw method, creates the minimum injury for the tree. We only have a single contact point of a jack screw with the underside of a limb. The cradle method, or crutch method like we're showing here, is the old way. But the problem with this method is this crutch underneath the limb does cause some restriction of circulation in that bark. So over time, what we'll notice is that the bark will want to grow over or around the obstruction, the so-called pinch point there. And in fact, what we would probably like to do here is replace this brace with the new jack screw method, the single pick point support method, and improve our support to this limb. To prevent more injury is to prevent the tree from coming any lower. Now the lateral limbs that develop from this point forward, as those want to arch and descend, we're going to have to cut those back to new laterals, new leaders, new up pointers, so that the tree does not drop down into that strike zone.